JHXC is a sellout.
Alright, so it's a funny thing, right? 3 different people within an hour asked me to do a ranking / tier list video of Keybi's maps. Like, specifically Keybi. Just out of nowhere, so yeah, that's what I'm doing, I guess, because everyone wants me to do it. Now, I have done a tier list before, specifically on Krunker map makers, and that video was fun, but it was a lot of work, because there are a lot of map makers. So I was kind of hoping, since I'm only doing the maps from one map maker this time instead of doing maps for all these other map makers, it would probably be easier this time. Well, the only issue is that this map maker is Keybi, and calling Keybi a map maker is kind of an understatement because he's probably the most popular and the most successful Krunker map maker ever, like in the entirety of Krunker. And being Keybi, he has a lot of maps, alright? As of the making of this video, he has a total of 47 maps, and that's not including some of the maps that he's deleted before. So, yeah, there are a lot of maps to get through. So I've had to take a decent amount of time to plan it out and figure out how exactly I'm going to tackle this. The first thing I decided to do was to take out some of the maps, because a lot of his maps are like practice / hard versions of the run maps, or old versions of maps, or test maps, or maps that are otherwise just not worth playing. And I've decided to take those maps out and exclude them. That brought the total down to 32 from 47. Still a lot of maps, but it's at least a little more manageable. And I decided to categorize those remaining maps into 8 different groups. And those groups are the run maps, the war maps, the zombie / raid maps, the 6.4 maps, parkour maps, the boost run maps, the FFA / aim maps, and the miscellaneous maps. So yeah, here's my tier list on Keybi's maps. Alright, here's the tier list right here. Yeah, I know it's rough, but this is like the first time I've opened PowerPoint in like years, I think. So yeah, bear with me, alright? So the first map I'm going to cover is none other than Lava Run. Now, run maps in Krunker are essentially co-op parkour, alright? You hit some switches to make paths appear so everyone can move forward and outrun the rush of various liquids from behind and or below, alright? That's the gist of run maps. And Lava Run in particular is the first run map that Keybi has ever made. I don't know if it's the first run map ever made, but it's definitely the first one Keybi has made. As far as I know, this is the most popular of his run maps, if not the most popular of all of his maps, so it's a pretty big deal. However, I don't think this is his best run map, by far, alright? It's kind of ugly, which, I mean, it's the first one he ever made, so it kind of makes sense. And it's not quite as clever as some of his other run maps, but at the same time, it's the Lava Run, alright? It's a classic. It's still just as fun, and it's easily the longest and the most rewarding, I guess. Even though some of the other run maps have passed it in quality, I do think it deserves the B tier. Next up is Acid Run, which is, I think, the second, maybe the I don't know. This one's a little more on the shorter side, but in my opinion, it's a lot more refined than Lava Run. It's definitely more difficult from the get-go. Alright, Lava Run kind of starts off easy and gets a little difficult, but this one is kind of hard from the get-go, and a lot more cooperation is needed to get past it, despite how short it is. But at the end of the day, I do think this is one of the better run maps that Keybi's made. Alright, there's extra stuff to do, bonuses. The challenges are a little more varied than just go here, do this, then do that. There are places where you have to activate buttons in a particular order, and it's definitely a little more, I guess, big-brained than Lava Run. Not to mention there are some extra secrets involving teddy bears and stuff, so yeah, I kind of like this one better than Lava Run, so I'm putting it in the A tier. Next up is Sand Run, which in my opinion is the best of both worlds. It is as clever and cooperative as Acid Run, and as long and future-packed as Lava Run. And in my opinion, this makes it the best run map that Keybi's ever made. Period. Alright, this goes into S tier without a doubt. Not only is it the best looking of all the run maps that Keybi's made, but it is also just, it's the best one. Period. It emphasizes cooperation now more than ever. Alright, so you can't solo it, which it is a downside, especially for someone like me, but at the same time, it's easily the most creative one. Instead of going forward or forward and up in an awkward sort of way. You go all over the place in this map, and the structure is a lot more refined than what you're gonna see in Lava Run, alright? And it also has the teddy bear bonuses just like in Acid Run. Definitely an S tier for me. And last, but, well, it is the least, Awkward Run. I meant Aqua Run. I mean, it's awkward, but yeah, Aqua Run. That's what it is. Like, it's just not as good as the other three. It's the most boring run, and it's also the most short one. While the other three run maps have all these rooms and structures and have all these different directions you go, Aqua Run is just one instruction, and it's just, you move up in a tower. I may be biased because I've been scarred by Parkour Tower, and it kind of reminds me of Parkour Tower, but it's literally just one room, as opposed to like several rooms in each of the others. And yeah, it is cleanly made with some custom assets outside of the playable area, so you can't even really experience them. And the teddy bears require knife throws this time, which it's a gimmick, but it's a welcome change of pace, I guess. But aside from the rising water, it's not very hard or easy, it's just, I don't know, I mean, it's just the most underwhelming of the four, and so I put it in C tier. Next up is, well, it's not a run map, but it does, I guess you can call it a spin-off of the run maps called Parkour Battle. Instead of it being co-op parkour, it's more team-based parkour. Like, you're split up into two teams and your team has to get to the end before the other team. And you have to activate switches to open the door, and very similar to the run maps, but I guess a different take on it. I do like the concept, but I do feel that it's a little underwhelming. The map doesn't really change much, it's not very hard at all. So I'm only going to put it in the B tier. I just wish a little more could be done with it. Alright, now that I got the run and run-esque maps out of the way, now it's time for the war maps, which Krunker is as much of a war map as something is to something that it's not. Alright, I can't think of an analogy there. It's going in D tier, alright? It's essentially Clash Royale. So it's KB trend chasing. And not even on a good trend, alright? I hate maps like Clash Royale or Sniper Royale, alright? They just suck. Now on to the actual war maps. Laser War, it's my favorite map of his. Alright, it is. It's my favorite map of his. Alright, it's just so simple, but so fun at the same time. So, S tier. The premise of Laser War is that you're on either side of a bridge, alright? You're in a castle, it sort of looks like Krunker, but it's anything but it. You're essentially trying to get as many kills from the other team as possible, and you're using the points from those kills to power up a laser that shoots the other castle. And when you shoot the other castle and take away some of its health, you unlock new weapons. So it's basically an advanced gun game, but a lot more fun, and it's just better. I love this map, alright? I know a lot of people think it's overrated. I love it, alright? You can't convince me otherwise. Now on to Tower War. Alright, see it? Let me make it bigger. Tower War is essentially like Laser War, but instead of, I guess, taking down a castle, you're sort of building a tower. And each tower has a new weapon that you unlock, and in theory, it's interesting, but the way it's executed is kind of lackluster. It's kind of like C tier lackluster. The thing about this that is different from Laser War is that Laser War allows you to choose any of the weapons you unlock, but Tower War doesn't do that. So it's basically just gun game, but with teams, and it's, I don't know, I just don't really like it as much as Laser War. And the same thing can be kind of said for Tower War 2. Hey guys, JHXC from the future. I was wrong. It isn't the same at all. In fact, it's much better. Yeah, I didn't really play Tower War 2 at all, alright, and I based my opinions on it on my opinions on the first Tower War. And it wasn't until I finished the tier list and the voiceover and started editing the video when I discovered that I didn't properly play the map. So, I did. And yeah, I'm glad I did. While it's not on the same level as Laser War, in my opinion, the map executes the ideas and concepts attempted by the first Tower War much better. You can move around and take more of a strategic approach to building the tower, and overall you can do a lot more in this map than you could in the first one. You can even go into the other tower from above or even below and storm it, which can be super fun, but it does present an issue with spawn camping, especially if the teams end up way unbalanced. Even with the potential issues, it does provide a variety and strategy that even Laser War doesn't have. It can be annoying to some people, but I personally like it. I'm still not the biggest fan of this semi-restrictive structure to the map. and you do naturally have to aim up and down and shoot from a distance, which can be annoying. Not to mention the performance on this map can take a hit when literally anything happens. Although that could just be due to my computer thermal throttling as per usual, because laptop's gonna laptop. But for what it is, it's definitely a lot more fun and layered than I thought it was. And I'm glad I gave it a second chance. I'm putting it into A tier. Alright, pretend I didn't just put this into C tier. Alright, I don't want to re-record all that. Alright, so I took a liberty of making this a little bit wider. Alright, just a little bit. Alright, it was already cutting it close and I was barely getting started, so... yeah. So next up is Zombie Bulwark, which to this day is Keybi's only zombie map. And it is one of the bigger zombie maps out there, and in my personal opinion, it's also one of the better ones. I'm putting it in A tier. It is a typical linear zombie map with, point gates and incremental weapon tiers and stuff like that. But it also does some things a little differently. It has these side quests that you can do alongside killing zombies. Things like killing penguins. I hope to God Peter doesn't find this. I know a lot of people like to give zombie maps flack for being lazy and, KR begging and stuff like that. But I really do think that this map is legitimately good and has legitimate effort put into it. Alright, so A tier. Next up is Undead Grounds, which, contrary to what the name may imply, it's not a zombie map, but it's a raid map. Yeah, raid maps. They exist. And I'm gonna be real, I don't really like raid maps in general, because a lot of them require a really good team of at least 8 people, preferably 20, to really get anywhere in them. Alright, these maps aren't soloable. And a lot of my criticisms of this map are really based on raid maps in general, alright, so I may be biased, but I just don't really like this map, alright, so I'm putting it into C tier. The way this map is structured is that you're supposed to, instead of killing all the zombies or skeletons or whatever they are, you have to find keys and unlock a door. So you technically don't have to kill the enemies, but they're so annoying that you have to kill the enemies. So it defeats the purpose of having different objectives. And the enemies themselves are bullet sponges and they're just annoying, alright? This map sucks. I know I've only played the first part of it, but I don't care. I can't get anyone to play with me, so I can't really give much of an opinion other than C tier. And neither do I really like Raid 6.4, mostly because it's a raid map and it has the 6.4 regalia for some reason. But I will admit, as far as raid maps go, well, it's better than Undead Grounds, to say the least, so B tier, I guess. It's definitely more polished and more structured and sophisticated, I guess, but it's still a raid map, alright? I just don't like raid maps. Speaking of 6.4, let's get into what may be the most legendary Keybi map, at least in my opinion, and that is B-Hop Level 6.4. I believe this is the first map that Keybi has ever made, and in my personal opinion, this is the most influential parkour map in all of Krunker. I already touched upon this in my video on that one level, but this map literally popularized the foundation that literally every single parkour map nowadays follows, the levels format. I literally call it the levels format because of the name of this map, alright? That is how iconic it is. And even nowadays, yeah, it's still a decent iconic map. Having said that, I'm putting it into A tier. Not the S tier, but the A tier because, well, you guys know already. I know you guys were probably expecting me to put it in S tier, but honestly, it's not even the best one that Keybi's ever made. The best one Keybi's ever made is Wall Jump 6.4. Yeah, I know this was made pretty much as soon as wall jumping came out and it was kind of a trend chasing map, but all things considered, this is my favorite parkour map that Keybi's made. Like seriously, this is going in S tier. It has the same general structure as level 6.4, like the regular one, but it's based on the wall jump mechanic, which in my opinion is one of the most fun mechanics, and it's explored very, very well in this map. Some of the things that Keybi has you doing in this map are just insane, alright? And yeah, it is a little bit more modern than level 6.4, alright? 6.4 is a good map of course, but it's older, and it does show its age in parts. But Wall Jump 6.4 isn't like that. It's newer, it's more modern, and it's just objectively better, alright? And then there's B-Hub Shotgun 6.4, alright? This is the third official parkour map that has this 6.4 regalia, alright? I'm not counting Raid 6.4. It feels less feature-packed than the other two. It does explore the shotgun mechanic very well, but I don't know, I guess I don't like the shotgun mechanic. and it's the least popular or the least supported of the three, and in my opinion for good reason, because it's just not very good compared to others. Alright, so B tier. Alright, so those were the 6.4 maps. They're the big pioneering parkour maps that Keybi's made. But those aren't the only parkour maps that he's made, alright? There are actually some more, mostly older parkour maps that Keybi's made in the past that are at least worth a mention. First up is Be Up Cave 2.0. It's one of his old parkour experiments, alright? I remember playing this back when it was first, I guess, Be Up Cave 1.0, and yeah, it's definitely a product of its time. And even back then, it honestly kind of sucked. Like, it was very outdated, it was ugly, it was way too easy for its own good, and it was just boring, I guess. Like, this barely got past the criteria of old ass irrelevant map from back in the day. Like, I honestly don't think you should really go back and play this because it's just boring, alright? D tier. Next up is another map from the same time, Be Up Tree 4.0. It's another old map, another one of Keybi's experiments, but while Cave 2.0 was boring and uninteresting, this one, it was actually pretty cool. It has an interesting structure to it, and it's still surprisingly challenging to this day. And even though it is a bit outdated, as pretty much everything from that era is, it's still probably worth a playthrough, alright? I'm putting this in the B tier. Next up is Be Up Word, which I guess is another attempt at a levels map, but not really as good as like level 6.4. It's fine, alright? It's ugly and foggy, but it's fine, really nothing special. C tier. Alright, here's a cool one. Be Up Pyramid. It's another levels map like Be Up Word, but this time it's anything but boring, alright? And I'm not kidding here, it's like Be Up level 6.4 on steroids, both in terms of the amount of parkour and in terms of difficulty. It does have the same amount of points as level 6.4, but it just seems a little bit more beefy. And instead of going in like corridors and stuff, it goes all over the place. Like, it literally takes place inside of a pyramid shape. I honestly think it's really, really cool. It's very difficult, way more difficult than level 6.4, but I think that's part of what makes it so interesting to me, and why I think this is honestly one of, if not the best map Keybi's ever made, alright? So, S tier, for sure. Next up is Be Up Spiral, which is Keybi's latest non-6.4 map, and it's kinda sort of a levels map, but it's in the shape of a spiral, and has all these different biomes and stuff like that. Honestly, it's the closest thing to a Chaos Begahem parkour map that Keybi has made. Alright, so I'm kind of wary on it, and plus it takes forever to get challenging, and I really don't know. I'm putting this in C tier. I just don't really like it that much. Now on to one of the more interesting parts of Keybi's map page. Race Boost Run. Basically what it is you have a boost ramp and a non-boost ramp of the same shape, same position, same direction, and instead of just boosting you on like on a slide or on ice or something, it boosts you while you're still on ground. So you have control where you go, but you're moving super fast. And this was something that I think Keybi has come up with on his own. I have no idea how he figured it out on his own, but honestly, this is Keybi at his most experimental. And I do think it has been pulled off incredibly well for the first time, alright? Because not only did it invent boost running, it also executed it very, very well. And even though it has been updated with boring music, like it used to have music that was much better in my opinion, but now it's just boring. It also has new Krunker mechanics like jump pads, but in my opinion it's still a really cool and, in my opinion, legendary race map that deserves a lot of respect, so I'm putting it in the S tier. And Keybi's also made a second post run map, Race BR Wood. It's another lesser wooden version of a much better map that Keybi's made. Much like Be Up Wood is a worse version of level 6.4, this is a worse version of Race Boost Run, alright? I'm putting this in the B tier, because definitely not as good as the original in my opinion. Now that I got most of the distinct types of Keybi's maps out of the way, I want to go into some of the more miscellaneous FFA kind of maps that Keybi's made, you know, the kind of experiments that he's worked on. I'm not going to spend too much time on these because they're honestly not as interesting as some of the others, but they're still worth mentioning at the end of the day. First up is Aim Battle, which is a kind of team-based map, kind of like Parkour Battle, where you, I guess, shoot more stuff than the other guys. It's pretty cool, I guess. This is in the same vein as Parkour Battle. Kinda wish it was taken a little further, but yeah, B tier. Next up is Moon Battle. It's kind of an FFA map, alright? Like, it has a big wide area, kind of like Aim Room or Crunk Story, but not Andy's Room. And while it does look pretty cool, I guess, like you can see space and the stars and it looks cool, it's not really too busy aside from that. It's honestly, I don't know, C tier for me. Now Frostbite is another older FFA map that Keybi's made, and I believe this was made for the rotation map competition back in 2018, like the OG map competition, the one that Sandstorm won. While it may have been pretty decent at the time, it honestly hasn't aged well. Like, it's kind of dull and boring, so I really feel bad putting it in C tier, but it really just doesn't hold up. Next up is Aim King. It's basically an FFA version of Aim Battle, which you'd think I would like a little more because you can just play it on your own, I guess, but oh wow, I already ran out of room again. Alright, well, let me lower this down. There you go. Next up is Instagib. This one has the lowest amount of upvotes in any of his maps, and I'm honestly kind of confused as to why, because for an FFA map, this is honestly kind of cool. It's very cleanly made, has lots of detail, it has a decent layout, and it's in the inside of a spaceship. Also, Space Police Guy. Alright, B tier. I like it. I have to make this wider again, because of course. Next up is another rotation style FFA map, Anubis, and I'm also including the diffused Anubis version of it. It's an alright layout, nothing too special, right? Looks pretty nice. B tier. I mean, it's still an FFA map, so not as interesting, but yeah. The next is MC Royale. As you can probably tell, this is based on Minecraft, alright? So it's a Minecraft-styled Battle Royale map. It's alright, it has some villages, some weapons, and even a few secret caves that you can get to by breaking some ground. But, I'm honestly putting it in C tier. I'm kind of burnt out on Battle Royale maps and games in general, so I may be biased, but honestly, this Battle Royale map doesn't really do anything interesting. The weapon placements aren't exactly interesting or exciting or anything. In my opinion, it's really not much beyond bare bones Battle Royale with a Minecraft skin put on it. Alright, so C tier. Now next up is Trade Stonks. Next up is Krunker. This is an interesting one, alright? It's an experiment with Krunker's vehicle movement. The Krunker editor now allows you to use different kinds of movement, like there's the regular first person movement, and then there's side scroller, and then there's vehicular movement, alright? And Krunker experiments with vehicular movement, and in my opinion, it does it pretty well, alright? Not particularly well, like it's still kind of janky, but it is a decent take on the whole Krunker vehicle movement thing. Even if it really doesn't go that much further beyond that kind of novelty. Alright, so B tier. And last, but definitely not least, is Warlord. Now, Warlord is Keybi's entry to the game comp. You know, the one that happened a few months ago with the $50,000 prize pool. This game won 3rd place in that competition. So, in that regard, this is a really cool game. It has all these custom assets, custom movement, custom controls, custom this, custom that. It has good sounds. It's definitely really cool in that regard. But as for how it compares to other Keybi maps in terms of enjoyability and actual functionality, I honestly don't think it's all that good. Alright, I'm putting it in the B tier. Yes, it is quite innovative, like I said, alright, with custom CSS, custom characters, custom animations, custom, I know. But once you get past the novelty of it being a straight up Krunker game, you'll soon realize that it doesn't really hold up to the other Keybi maps that have been made, like Sand Run or Laser War. The game is heavily based on gathering resources, but there really isn't much to use those resources on. Alright, and you'll end up using a lot of them on things you'll ultimately not even need to use. The main goal is, it's another team-based game where you're trying to get to the other team's crystal and destroy it before the other team destroys your crystal. And in order to do that, you need to, again, gather resources and build up an army and, I guess, storm the village. However, the only army you really need is an orc, because the other guys are completely useless because the pathing is broken. And as a result, everyone goes into the wall and does absolutely nothing. And once you get the orc, you won. Alright, you basically won the game. Unless the other guy has an orc as well, in which case things will get interesting. But other than that, yeah, there really isn't much when you look at it. Not to mention how incomplete the game feels, alright? Like I mentioned, the AI pathing is broken, and it's just... I mean, it's definitely cool. Like, its third place status definitely helps it a bit, but as for the actual form factor and replayability and functionality, it falls a little short. And there you have it. There's my tier list on Keybi's Maps. That was fun. Annoying, but fun. Alright, I obviously think that if there's any single map maker who is a true, bona fide rock star in the community, it's Keybi. And you'd think that someone like Keybi, one of the most popular map makers of all time, would make nothing but boring, mainstream junk, and not really go beyond that. But instead, Keybi has built his entire career on experimentation. Even if the results may not be consistently good, and there are times where Keybi gets a little close to selling out, I do think at his best, Keybi has this innate ability to turn most of his ideas into gold, and he has done that countless times. And at the end of the day, I really don't think my tier list does Keybi justice for how influential he's been in the community, and this deep dive into his mapography really reinforces his spot in S tier on my mapmaker's tier list. I know that list is way outdated. Like, there's a bunch of new map makers, and some of my placements here already, they haven't aged well. Like, can you believe I put Outlet 4 in D tier? Like, a part of me constantly wonders if that placement was this guy's origin story or something, because he'd go on to make Aatrox, which in my opinion won first place in the game comp. So, yeah. But even then, Keybi being in S tier is something I think he still more than deserves.